I'm first going to say that this video is not just another clickbait Snoke theory. It contains all canon information from the 3 Aftermath novels, which I will explain in detail throughout this video, leading into Palpatine, everything he planned, and who I believe is undoubtedly Snoke's childhood and adulthood. This video contains major spoilers for all the 3 Aftermath novels, so if you don't want to know, turn away now. In the novel, which takes place after Return of the Jedi, it takes us to a flashback scene, roughly just after the events of The Phantom Menace. Firstly, I will begin by explaining who Gallius Rax was in the first Aftermath novel. Rax was known only as a behind-the-scenes man who fed information to the New Republic regarding the remains of the Empire and all head officials who were setting up a meeting to regroup the Empire again. Admiral Ray Sloane was sent by Rax to organize the meeting. Not much else happens in regards to Rax for our purpose in this video, other than at the end, he tells Sloane that he believes the Empire needs to be destroyed, and from its ashes, something new should form. Now in the prequel, Aftermath Life Debt, which was released in 2016, 1 year after the first novel, there is a prologue and epilogue that takes place a few years before Attack of the Clones, several years after The Phantom Menace. In the prologue, it gives a backstory on who Gallius Rax was. I will create a video regarding uncovering the highlighted points from both of these parts in the novel and the conversation that Palpatine had with the boy, which is extremely interesting. However, I will briefly summarize what happened here in this video. The book's first page starts with Gallius Rax as a little boy named Galli. He is an orphan and a slave on the planet Jakku. On a hot day during his slave routine, he and his companions see an immense gleaming ship fly above them and land not too far away. The boy runs, running so hard and so far until his legs felt like clumps of cured dried meat hanging from his hips. Reaching the ship upon its landing, he noticed droids and a man with purple robes and a proper long hat emerge from the door as they did their business. Rax knew this was his chance. He ran and snuck onto the ship just as the doors closed, hiding in the dark for hours, until a man spoke to him.
Boy, show yourself.
As the voice beckoned him to come closer, Galli does so. It's no surprise at this point that the voice belongs to Palpatine. It is quoted in the book during this scene that Galli's thoughts are that this was a summoning more than just a request, but rather it had gravity to it, pulling him closer. Palpatine gives him a choice. He says he can either end his life right there, putting him out of his misery as a slave, or he can embark on a new journey, a new life, one of significance. Palpatine tells him how this new life will not just be a mundane job, but a role, a purpose, how he senses a great potential in Gallius, a destiny, and how most people don't have a destiny. What I found extremely alarming is this next part. Palpatine begins to relate people with no purpose to background actors and props in an opera play. He then proceeds to ask Galli if he likes the opera, answering his own question by saying, "No, of course you don't, but we can fix that if you accept from me this new life." As the conversation continues and Galli accepts his new life in Palpatine's hands, he is ordered to go back to Jakku and protect something that Palpatine's droids were guarding. Something of great importance. Something, as he says, not just to me, but the galaxy at large, as he swept his hand outwards towards the universe. Palpatine then continues to say it is significant. It was significant 1,000 years ago, and it will be significant again. Ending their conversation with a small smile as Palpatine gives Galli his first name, telling the boy to call him Sheev, and that an emperor must have friends, after all. So before we continue, I want to put focus on one thing in particular. Notice how Palpatine mentions the opera. It was the same scene that led to so many to compare the music of the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith with Snoke's presence in The Force Awakens. I think this part in the book ties that in very well, not for Darth Plagueis, but for Rax. Let's continue. What could Palpatine be hiding that was so important 1,000 years ago and will continue to be important in the future of the galaxy? My thoughts are that this is a hidden Sith temple, riddled with holocrons and ancient Sith lore. Disney is taking things from the expanded universe, and one thing from this is how Lando stole the very ship that Palpatine and Galli are on, which was filled with Sith lore, artifacts, and holocrons. The next point is that why on earth would Palpatine trust something so important to a slave child that he literally just met, and why did Galli even go to the ship? The opening of the epilogue has this line in it. And yet he remains compelled, as if something invisible is tugging him along, an unseen thread bound to his throat, leading him like a leash and collar. I will get a little closer. I won't be missed. Just like how Palpatine's master Darth Plagueis was skilled in force manipulation and hallucinations, which is what I believe Palpatine did here with the boy, luring him to the ship as if something invisible was tugging him along by his throat, like a leash and a collar. He sensed the force within Gallius. This also leads me to believe that Palpatine induced Anakin with the nightmares of Padme. Usually when Jedi had premonitions of the future, it isn't in the form of nightmares, but rather when they would meditate, just like when Master Yoda did. Now, fast forward with me to after Return of the Jedi. Gallius is seen to be wearing a long, dark robe that reached the floor, billowing as he walked. In the book, it is written in detail how Gallius greets Sloane, mentioning him to sneer with his lips, arch his eyebrow, and spread his arms. How he takes dramatic steps and makes showy gestures, much like that of an opera actor on stage. This is extremely reminiscent of how Snoke speaks and dramatically gestures towards Kylo and Hux. Sloane also makes several references to Gallius as being a hologram. I quote, "That is how she feels, as if she is meeting a hologram of a dead man to pass as real." Rax then says, and I quote again, "Opera moves me, and yet none of it is real. Therein lies the crux of what you need to understand. Something does not need to be real for it to have an effect. The instruments and song, the drama and melodrama, the pathos and tragedy. It's a lie, a fiction, and yet what happens on the stage speaks a kind of truth just the same. Facts and truth are separate things." This is another point to how opera moves him, something Palpatine enjoyed. In another part of the book, Rax plays the first song he heard after leaving Jakku. It was the story of a woman who refused to join the Sith or the Jedi and took revenge on them both for the death of their family. In another part of the book, Rax plays the first song he heard after leaving Jakku. It was the story of a woman who refused to join the Sith or the Jedi and took revenge on them both for the death of her family. This could be Kylo, as he is neither dark nor light, just conflicted and in between, but it could also be Rey and why he was so invested in finding the girl. Leading to my theory, on a side note, how she will eventually turn against all sides, and this is where Kylo returns to the light side of the Force. On Coruscant, Sloane finds an old hollow image of a young Gallius Rax, with Palpatine as she says. The boy looks like a dirt-cheeked rube solved into an ill-fitting academy uniform. His hair is dark, his skin is pale. Those eyes, though, a familiar arrogance shines there, each a black hole swallowing the light. One thing stands out. One of the boy's hands is facing outward, and Sloane sees something across his palm, a marking of some kind, a tattoo, or a brand. It's interesting how Rax has a tattoo as if he is a part of a group or secret clan, possibly a nudge towards the acolytes of the beyond. Next, as part of Rax's goal to create a stronger, more efficient empire, as he quotes in the book, he plans the rescue of Commandant Brendel Hux, who is father of General Hux from The Force Awakens, as we saw. Rax says that once Hux is with them, he will form a shadow council to govern the empire from behind the scenes. This council will be made up of, and I quote again, the first and highest order of Imperial minds. Take note of the words first and order, which undoubtedly is a hint towards the First Order. Rax then goes to say, the Empire must be fertile and young. Children are crucial to our success. Many of our officers are old. We need that kind of vitality, that brand of energy you get with the young. The Empire needs children. This is why in The Force Awakens, all the officers and commanders were literally young men. This also leads the young cloaked figures rumored to be the acolytes of the Beyond, that were seen buying what was told to be Darth Vader's lightsaber in the black market. Rax ends up revealing after a long time that the Empire had new Imperial fleets awaiting command, ready with thousands of Star Destroyers and crafts. Sloane plans to take down Rax, but she needs more dirt on him, and he feels this, telling her he knows she hates him and that she can both respect and despise him, as he did with Palpatine, saying, he was mighty and deserving of praise, but he was also a monster, and one who made mistakes. This type of arrogance to one's master or mentor is nothing short of a Sith apprentice to his master, much like how Maul and Vader felt towards Palpatine, and how Sidious felt towards Plagueis. While Sloane is on Chandrila, the freed prisoners who are being controlled with mind-implanted biochips suddenly open fire on the leaders of the Republic. Take a wild guess where the emitter controller for the chips was hidden. It was in an opera house. Sloane escapes and informs Adea, her assistant, that Rax is insane and must be stopped. Adea reveals that she is actually Rax's spy, where she is then killed by Sloane, leading to her promise to kill Rax once and for all. This could be why Rax's massive Star Destroyer can be seen as crash-landed on Jakku, as Rey and Finn fly through it during The Force Awakens. If he did indeed survive the crash, assuming he was on it, then this could explain his scars and disfigured face. Rax also says in the novel, "We will test ourselves on Jakku, and we will do so far from the eyes of the galaxy. And when the time is right, when we have wedded ourselves to a vicious point, we will strike once again. The Senate is injured. The Republic is wounded. We will go in for the kill, but it is too soon, and we are too weak." This is why we never saw this during the original trilogy, because it was meant to be hidden from the timeline of the galaxy that we saw. Sloane also, again, refers to Gallius as a hologram, saying that she can't just push a button and make him pop up as a hologram, although he might as well be. In Empire's End, it is said that there was a power contacting Palpatine from the unknown regions of the galaxy. However, it didn't reach out to Vader. My thoughts are that this was Gallius Rax, or Snoke. I find it extremely unlikely that they would create 3 books over the course of the last 3 years, tiptoeing around a mysterious character that literally fits every Snoke identity, mannerism, and persona, just to make him be someone else. In the book, Sloane also asks Rax for his identity, where Rax shrugs the question off and says it's silly and pointless, and that the beauty is in the mechanism, not the individual parts pulled from it. So, what do you think? Could Snoke still be Darth Plagueis, as some guess, or is he this new character, just as Andy Serkis, who played Snoke, has said in an interview, that Snoke is an all-new character? Let me hear your thoughts down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Star Wars Theory. Until we meet again, remember,
The Force will be with you. Always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.